Hey, 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 Carlos Matos. I am back. Just kidding. Thanks for tuning in. Crypto Street Podcast. This is Dale. Sorry we're a little tardy. Prince and I were fighting because he's a punk ass bitch.
Tardy. I think we're doing a great time. I think we were worse last week.
I think you're right too. I think I now that you say that, I look up. It is Monday night, 9:00 standard recording time.
Yeah, we were worse last week, so it's all good.
It was all your fault last week too. So Prince, how we doing, buddy?
I'm living. I'm just living. Living the dream. Another day in paradise. Weather's nice. Windows are open. What can I say?
Wow.
Right? What more can you ask
Windows
for?
are open.
Yeah, sleeping with the windows open. It's great. It's great.
Aren't you afraid of your neighbor with your windows open at night?
Windows on the other side of the house, so I'm good.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Makes complete sense.
Yeah.
How's the hockey team?
One win away from the championship.
Oh, are you gonna party like it's 1999?
Probably not, because they're just a bunch of meatheads and they're younger than me for the most part. Well, not that much younger than me, but I got a reputation to protect in my own mind.
Yeah.
Nobody else knows about this reputation, but in my own mind, I got one. So I got to protect it. So I don't know if I'll be partying too hard with them or anything. Maybe have a beer.
I think Killer and I are gonna party probably harder than you are.
I'm saving it for New York, so there we go.
Yeah, Killer, how's it going?
It's going great, man. I'm watching some charts, watching Bitcoin, of course, BNB, ENG. I think we'll all have some thoughts on some of these coins and our thoughts on the markets in a bit, but it's been fun. It's been fun to watch charts again for the first time in quite some time.
And what a great time too. We've got some hangover from the NCAA basketball tournament. So we got some good time to kind of look at charts. That's kind of why we planned to have the man, the myth, the legend, Crypto DonAlt. What's going on, man?
Thank you. Nothing much. Just chilling.
Chilly?
Chilling. And it's
chilling
here. It's super cold, actually, in Germany.
Very good.
Yeah.
So, known resident chartist on like that you're on at a time where things are kind of popping off a little bit. So give us maybe just before we dive into some things, give us your high level overview of your current view of the market right now.
I feel like things should go up still. Like all coins look good, Bitcoin looks good. I don't see a reason why we should go back to anything below 3.5K. So yeah, looking decent.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. Have a great evening. Is there anything in particular, like a sector of the markets, like high caps, low caps, stuff like that you're really watching?
I feel like the big caps look the best. Like ADA, for example, has been really good. With that consolidation that broke out just a few days ago.
Sure.
Ethereum still looks good to me. And so yeah, just the big caps and everything pretty much besides Litecoin, I think.
Besides Litecoin, you said? Yeah,
I mean Litecoin looks good, but it's at resistance, right? For me, that's I wouldn't really long it anymore. But yeah, who knows? If it's really turning into old season, then it's probably gonna just do new all-time highs. But as long as we don't have that kind of pop-up, I wouldn't really look at Litecoin too much. The other ones look better, I feel like.
Do you think it is turning into another season, in your opinion?
I think for a proper old season, you would need to have Bitcoin strength. So the old seasons that I like the most are, for example, the last old season that we had in 17 was when Bitcoin topped out. And those are the old seasons that I really like because you have the alts pumping, everyone, your friends, everyone just buys in because they think, okay, they're going to make the next 100x. Everyone buys Bitcoin to buy the alts with, and then the altcoins go up. Everyone buys in more and more and more. And then Bitcoin distributes and goes down. And those are kind of the old seasons that I like the most because I think those are the ones that give the biggest returns. And I don't think we're at that point. Bitcoin's super weak in general. It's super cheap. So I feel we could get a mini old season. and it sure looks like that. But I don't think it's going to be like that huge alt season that we had in 17. That'd be very surprising to me.
Are you saying just not like right now, or because I mean, like in my opinion, the seasons last like usually like a year and a half ish. Could we be perhaps at the first several months of something like that, in your opinion, or is that still a ways off in the distance? Would you say?
What I think is pretty much that stuff could go up like 2 times, 3 times, 4 times maybe. But then I think Bitcoin is pretty much bottoming right now. Even if it like makes a new low, I think Bitcoin is pretty much bottoming. So once Bitcoin starts the uptrend again, I wouldn't be surprised if the altcoins took a hit because of like Bitcoin just depreciating so much. So very similar to 17, where you had like that Bitcoin run, and at the end of the Bitcoin run, you had all the like from 10 to 20k, you had like all the altcoins dump really hard. And I could see the same thing happen again.
I'm curious to get your view on this now. There's been, we see a lot of people who are trying to say that for Bitcoin to bottom, it needs to see this massive wick kind of thing, and then that'll signify the bottom. I have my own thoughts on this, but I'm curious, what are your thoughts on that theory that we've kind of been seeing? People saying that they believe it needs to happen for Bitcoin to bottom.
I don't agree with it. Yeah. I think like Bitcoin doesn't need like a huge wick, and I think we're pretty much like the last really big bear market in 15 ended with like that big wick, right? But we're in a completely different stage now, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't think that needs to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if like Bitcoin made a new low at some point, and then went up, but I don't think like that massive like 20, 30, 40% wick is gonna happen again. That'd be like that'd be more bad than good this time around.
Yeah, market's a little bit more mature, so
yep.
I just think if you look at the chart too, like there is an argument that capitulation has already occurred, a few months ago. And I mean, it's not like just completely like telltale where it's just like completely obvious. But if you look at it, like you could look in hindsight and be like, yeah, that was clearly capitulation, right?
I agree. Like, and the fact that like 4K looks so similar to the 6K bottom, just in reverse.
Yeah.
And like you have the BitMEX funding, which is like super, like it's paying bulls so much right now. It's kind of like I wouldn't want to be short here, like definitely not. Even if it goes down, I think Bitcoin is a buy rather than a sell, like on a swing basis.
You mentioned ADA Cardano, which is one of these smart contract, sort of Ethereum-like coins like Tezos, EOS, things like that. With that in mind, do you see any trends to this next season if it does come in terms of which coins or groups of coins will do the best?
I wouldn't be surprised if like that these like third generation smart contract platforms like ADA, EOS, Tezos, the ones that you talked about did really well. Just because it's very easy to hype them. I don't really think they're much better. But I think it's very easy to hype them. So you've kind of seen the start of that with Tezos, where it was like it just did like that 60% pump out of nowhere. So yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if there was like a huge hype wave around these coins.
Yeah, and I'm starting to see some things too where it's like something will go up 60% and like it retraces maybe 30% of that move, and like people just forget about it, don't talk about it, and like you look back and you're like, this is still like an overall like a 40% move in a couple days, which is still really good. And like I think that's a sign that things are really shifting though, because you're getting like really good returns on things with zero commotion around it.
Yeah, I've seen that too. I feel like you've had what this entire thing started out with like these pumps that fully retraced, right? Like on some coins you had like these mega pumps like 100, 150% out of nowhere, and then they fully retraced. And I didn't really trust those. But what is happening right now looks way better, where you have like these pumps, like you said, that go up like 40% and then retrace like half of it and then consolidate again. And that's where we're at right now. And yeah, it's really turning interesting. Like if they don't fully retrace, we could see like a general, like in the market, a second leg up.
Is there
How
any
long have you been-
coin? Oh,
go ahead, Prince.
oh, I was gonna say, is there any coin in particular aside from Bitcoin that you find yourself watching pretty consistently these days, watching the charts, and you're finding a lot of good action to be had? Just one in particular.
I really like to trade the ETH-USD
Okay.
contract on BitMEX, just because I feel like it's relatively easy to like, at least for me, to catch the bottoms. Like I've done so like the last two bottoms, and now I'm long again. And I feel very comfortable with that one, just because like the liquidity is good. It's still an altcoin, so you still have like bigger returns than Bitcoin. And yeah, that's the one that I like most. But based on if I was like to choose an altcoin, I like Tezos a lot right now.
Oh,
Show loves to hear that.
Music to our ears. What is it about that chart in particular that you like?
Which one?
Tezos.
Tezos is like kind of like, if it's mostly based on just the similarity of Tezos and EOS. So I've been talking about Tezos for a while now, because they've just, the ICO was so big, right? And they have so much money. And you saw the same thing with EOS, where EOS pumped, and no one really believed in it. Everyone was like, okay, EOS is a scam. And I mean, it started out after the ICO, it started out dumping really, really hard. And the same thing happened with Tezos, and people shit talked it, and then it went below ICO price. And that was just like a very obvious buy to me, in my mind. And I think is it above ICO price now? I don't even. I think it's around ICO price.
ICO is around 45 cents US.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned something big that I think a lot of people overlook, though, is just the cash piles that these two projects, EOS and Tezos, have. I mean, it's almost like these projects are barely valued more than their cash on hand, if anything more than their cash on hand. So if they do nothing with it to increase the value, I mean, they're still kind of like at that valuation level where you go, okay, I mean, they have hundreds of millions of dollars to put to work, whether that be paying developers, holding competitions for different projects to build on them. I mean, the list of things they can do is endless. And I think those are also projects that got in the last wave, where you could actually have an ICO and like actually raise a ton of money with like very little care for regulations and different rules you have to abide by and all that. But I mean, they've kind of skated by it, and they still have this cash though. So unless they completely go under due to like a lawsuit or something, I think there's a strong argument to be made that they'll have much more value in the near future.
Yeah, I agree. It's like something really important that most people don't look at. I think Loomdart recently talked about it, like that there's a few like other ICOs around that have like equal amounts of ETH to their market cap. And I think that's like just a smart play if you look at like just the value at it. If you're like an FA trader, for example, that's something that I would look at rather than just reading white papers all day.
And you got to think too that if we really like develop into this world where there are tons of different dApps and just like companies building on different blockchains, and they're all incorporating the smart contract technology, I mean, that would be hypothetically a multi-trillion-dollar market if you're taking a tiny piece of like a ton of different businesses and projects. I mean, so there is space for a lot of these different coins with that purpose to get a sizable chunk of that share. And I think it's kind of crazy to think that, just Ethereum will get like 90+%. I mean, perhaps to begin with, but I think like any market, their share will probably corrode with new challengers over time.
I find like, even if you would think that just Ethereum is going to win, if the importance of smart contracts rise, I think like everything is going to go up just because of like speculation, right? So even if you're like one of the believers that just one is going to win out, we don't know which one it is yet, right? So the moment people notice, oh, like there's this huge market, and one is going to win, like even then everything is going to go up just because of it.
Yeah, the correlation is so high in crypto. It's
just look at something like Tesla. You know, for example, I mean, their revenue is far less than somebody like Ford or Chrysler. You know, I'm probably lumping in a lot of companies that are in the same brand, but they still get valuated at a higher level because there's that promise, that potential. People always trade what they expect something to be worth, not what they actually think it's worth at that moment.
Good point.
Don, talk a little bit about your trading style and maybe what's your go-to thing when you first pull up a chart and are looking to maybe decide whether or not you want to get in or out of a trade.
Okay, so how I trade pretty much is I usually start off with a big time frame chart, like the monthly, for example. And then I just look at, okay, what's the trend? Is there any horizontal support? Is there any horizontal resistance? That's like the first thing that I look at. And then I map out these kind of horizontals on the chart that I can find. Write down the trend. Is it like, are we in a bear market? Are we in a bull market? So for example, right now we're in a bear market, so you always got to be a little bit more careful with longs, right? And the same was true for the bull market in 16, 17, where it didn't really make sense to short. And then I go to the smaller time frames, do the same thing. And I mean, I'm married to my horizontals, right? I don't really use that much else, just like simple support resistance stuff. Because I think if you overcomplicate trading, it's just like it's gonna confuse you. And if no one else looks at the same thing as you do, yeah, I don't think it's gonna work. Like, at least that's my trading philosophy. So I just keep it very simple, and then just go from the highest time frame to the lowest time frame. And then if I see like a chart that is at, like, if the monthly looks really good, and then I look at the weekly chart and that looks really good as well, and then I'm like, okay, I really want to buy this, and then I look at the small time frames to get in. So it's super simple. But yeah, it works for me.
Would you say? Oh, go on.
I was going to say real quick, I really like that point about if not enough people are looking at what you're looking at, then it might not play out. Because I mean, a lot of TA is sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy where something reaches what looks like support, so people expect to buy or they do buy, and then it shows bullishness at that level. Then other people go, oh, support held, and it's like it kind of just, you know, creates this feedback loop.
Yeah, I feel like even more like crypto is pretty much the perfect market for that, because crypto really, like, there's not really that much else that you can do besides just doing TA, right? I mean, you in stocks you can look at way more information. In crypto, it's just like you can see, okay, this project is a scam or not, but it's very hard to judge how good the code is, for example. If like something is like really putting something out that is worth something, that's like, because it's so speculative, it's hard to figure that stuff out. And I think that's why TA works so well in the crypto markets, just because everyone is using it. And then you just have to figure out the pitfalls and the traps that get set. But once you do that, I feel like with very simple TA, you can do a lot of things, at least on the higher time frames.
How long, real quick, DonAlt, how long have you traded crypto?
I've been like full-time trading crypto since the beginning of 17. And before that, I didn't I looked at the markets, and I had like some crypto, but I didn't trade it. So it's just like, okay, I think this is good, it's gonna go up, but I didn't really trade it because I always felt like I really needed to learn how to trade before I wanted to trade at all, and that's why I started in FX, just to make sure that I really had it down.
How do you so that experience in FX, maybe touch on that a bit and how that's, you know, kind of parlayed into your trading in crypto and how much it's helped you?
So for me, starting in FX, it was kind of funny because in 17, I learned trading in pretty much in 16. I started getting really serious about it, end of 16, and looked at the entire like I did a lot of FX courses and that kind of stuff, which in hindsight, like a lot of that stuff was really bad. I mean, you see it everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Even in crypto, you see like people selling courses that are really, really shitty.
Oh yeah. When you're new, you don't know any better, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I was just consuming all this info, but and then I just picked up the stuff that made sense. So whenever someone said something that just logically didn't make sense to me, I was just like, okay, this guy is an idiot. I'm not going to listen to him. And after like half a year of doing that, I kind of figured out like what worked and what didn't. And then I went into crypto and noticed that like crypto trading was way more simple. In like in 17, the only thing that you had to do was just draw triangles and then long whenever whenever it hit like
it was a beautiful time.
Yeah, it was like the best time. It was just like I learned how to trade like well and with like pretty much the style that I use now and that I've used the entire bear market. And then just threw it all out and just traded like triangles and like did the typical crypto stuff in 17, and that did me really well. I don't think there's anything wrong with it as long as it works, right? And it definitely worked in 17. And then when the bear market came around, I just switched back to my old style, and that worked really, really well for the bear market.
Okay, so how many, if you had to estimate in a month time frame, how many trades would you say you usually put on in a 1 month?
It really depends. Like in 17, I did so many trades.
Right.
I can't even like the stuff that I had to send to my accountant was like it was just like, okay, fuck you.
A nightmare.
Yeah. And then like in 18, I took way less trades, like way less, but like bigger swings. And in 19, I've even reduced it. Like I haven't really. I just like to buy low. I just give me a second. Oh Jesus, my brother's annoying.
Oh, it's all good, man.
Yeah, no problem.
But that's such a huge trait, though, right? Like being able to actually just sit on your hands and just wait for the trade to come to you, because that's like the classic. A lot of traders, and I know I go through this where it's sometimes you want action, right?
I woke up my little brother.
There you go. But yeah, I was just saying how like that's such a big trait to be able to have, right? To be able to like sit on your hands if the environment isn't good for a trade, and just being able to say like, hey, I don't need to be in a trade right now. Like there's no reason for this.
Yeah. And for me in 19, that was pretty much the case where you just like you pick your bottoms and then you just stick with it. And that really worked well. And I like the higher time frame stuff way more than I used to. So I'm just kind of sticking with that right now.
Do you find yourself now potentially dabbling back in FX or other markets, or are you kind of do you stay focused on crypto for the most part?
I feel like now is pretty much the time to be focused on crypto, right? I mean, everyone kind of was trying to be focused on crypto when it hit like 6K all over, like the entire time. But now when it gets boring, that's pretty much the time where I would be looking at stuff. And I feel like, at least like for the altcoins, like that has paid off already. A lot of altcoins have made really good gains. And so yeah, I'm not like I'm kind of looking at a few FX pairs, but I think like being focused on crypto makes a lot of sense right now.
Yeah,
I'm definitely like starting to see some charts that follow that endless bull flag, like MO. I mean, there are certain coins
that's
that
like
you're starting to see that.
It's like the hallmark. You're in a nice bull mode when it's just steady flag after flag after flag, right?
Hey,
Donald, I was just gonna say, we have a question in the chat from Bella. She's asking to talk about the article on Medium that you wrote, where you basically called the top in January.
Yeah, that was pretty much how I got like known on Twitter. So I wrote an article being like, okay, pretty much the case that I made earlier, where I was like, okay, why is Bitcoin not going up when everyone is buying altcoins? That was around like 13 or 14K. We had like that big drop from 20K to 10K. And then we rebounded, and pretty much everyone was talking about like, okay, this was just like the big retracement that we needed, and now it's going back up. And what I saw was that we kind of stalled and didn't really move. Like it went sideways, and altcoins just went like 10x, 15x, 20x. Everyone was buying, and I was kind of seeing that Bitcoin wasn't going up, and I was just wondering, okay, if Bitcoin doesn't go up, even though everyone is buying altcoins, what does that mean? And for me, it meant that people with large holdings have to have sold their stuff, or like are selling their stuff. And I wrote an article about it, like I think it was like at 13K or something. And the very next day it crashed.
Dang.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was 11.7K, and the next day started like the descent to 6K. That was pretty good timing.
I think it's very interesting, the thing you said about people with large holdings, like them having gotten out. Can you dive a little bit more into that specific bit about it and what made you believe that?
So what made me believe it, I mean, I kind of saw like in the altcoins, you've had these, especially like in Ripple, you had these moves up where you had like big rallies, and on Bittrex there were just like 100 Bitcoin sell walls of Ripple, like the entire way up. That always got filled, like everyone just FOMO bought it. And I was like, okay, this is so weird, because they could have sold like way higher. But then I realized, okay, if you have like huge holdings, you can't really do that, because if you just put like a 1K or like 2K Bitcoin sell wall up of XRP, it's not going to work, right? So they had to sell on the way up, and I saw that happen, and I saw like Bitcoin like just really stalling and really not moving anymore. So I just assumed like, okay, that's correlated. Like people are selling altcoins, people are selling Bitcoin, and it's just moving entirely out of the market. And that proved to be the case. I don't know if it was just kind of luck or whatever, but I kind of got the exit right.
Don, a couple of quick questions. Then I want to mention here before I ask this next two couple quick questions to the chat, people in the chat. So what we want to do is, Don's agreed to, we're going to take 3 to 5 random coins that you guys say in the chat, and Don's going to pull up the chart and quick kind of give an overrun of them, an overview. So Killer Prince and I are just going to pick and tell Don what to look at. But real quick, Don, maybe share with the listeners what you do when you're not sitting, staring at charts. What's some things you do to get your mind off the markets?
I like to do sports, all kinds of sports. So I enjoy climbing. In the winter, I enjoy snowboarding, and in the summer, I like to go surfing, that kind of stuff. And then, like for me, like the last 2 years have pretty much been only trading. I really haven't done much else. So I'm trying to get back into these kind of things. So I've recently just picked up like climbing again, where I go like several times a week, and back to the gym and everything. But yeah, for me, like the last 2 years have just been like terribly, way too much trading. So I'm just taking it slow now.
Yeah, but I mean, like someone told me once, is when the getting's good, you gotta sit there and continue to get at it. So
yeah.
All right, we're getting a lot of coins requested here. Let's just start with you kind of touched on it earlier. We won't count this one towards what we're going to do, but I want to hear your general overview on Bitcoin.
Okay. Should we like just put my chart, like my screen on, or what are we going to do? Can we do that? I don't even know.
You can turn it on. I mean, I would just make very sure there's nothing you don't want everybody to see first. So
yeah, I think that's fine.
But I mean, we can make it so that it shows everybody what you're showing. So
yeah, I mean, I'm down with that.
Okay. So yeah, I guess we'll start off with Bitcoin, like Dale was saying, and then we'll hit on some of these alts everybody is flooding the chat with as we speak. I'm very happy with all these different ones. It should be interesting to see.
Mm-hmm. So, is it shared now?
I do not see it.
No, I don't see it.
Can I do I have to do something? Because I don't actually know.
Yeah, the top left on the Hangouts link, click screen share.
Oh yeah, perfect. Yes.
Cool. There we go. We got it. It's
okay.
It's looking a little funky, but it should still show up for everybody.
Nice. So for me, like the weekly chart, this is what I've been talking about earlier. You have the 6K floor, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have the 6K floor that broke down, and you have a very similar thing at like 4K right now, where you have several tests that don't like that they got rejected, but it's not fully breaking down. And yeah, I just feel like that's why I'm not shorting right now, like bigger time frame. And the reason why I'm kind of leaning bullish right now is the 3-day, where you have like this Adam and Eve bottom, like the big Adam and Eve bottom, which is just like a spike down, reversal, like big selling, big buying coming in at the lows, and then like a slow rounding out. And what has happened like the last few weeks is you had the same thing at the top, right? So like a small Adam and Eve top. So it's kind of like those two are pretty much battling against each other. But what I like is kind of these like this retracement into previous consolidation on the 3-day. That just looks like a bullish retest to me. And if that plays out, I think the sky's the limit, because there's really nothing up here. Like all this empty space. Yeah, all this empty space in here. Like I wouldn't know, like if I was like looking for sells, I wouldn't look for sells anywhere in here. And yeah, so as soon as we get into that kind of area, I would just assume that we get like a big candle upwards. And then if it gets rejected, we might go back to the lows. But yeah, that's to be seen once we get there. And I mean, if this breaks down, I feel like the probability is pretty close. But if this breaks down, I think like 3.5K might be a good area to look for buys. Just like because this area has just been in general this big buying coming in. So yeah, if it breaks out, I think it's gonna go like really hard, and I think that's more likely than it breaking down. But if it breaks down, I'm gonna look at 3.5K. That's Bitcoin for me. There's really not that much.
No, I like that.
I really like that. It looks dope. Yeah, because it's very like
simple. It's down to the point. Yeah.
Yeah. So next one I want to ask about in the chat. Sorry if this is too generic, but I think this one will hold implications for a lot of other coins, is Ethereum. So if you can bring that up and kind of show what you're looking at.
USD?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's do USD. Yeah, USD.
USD, okay.
Yeah. I know you mentioned you were looking at that one before, so this should be a beauty.
So I've been long. I mean, I've had this chart for ages. I just haven't updated yet. So like this was where I like longed the last time down here. That's why this is still like first major resistance, not support. But for me, I'm still in this long. Like I've bought down here and just held like an idiot. But yeah, I'm still in this long. Just got back to my entry today. But yeah, I'm just holding that one. And for me, it's just pretty much the same situation as Bitcoin. If it breaks out, I think there's really not that much to the upside besides like maybe 200. And if it breaks down, I think like 115 is going to be interesting, because we've had so many tests of that, and it's been holding pretty well. But yeah, if we go to 115, I could see it bouncing and then go like for a second leg down. Because if Bitcoin goes to 3.5K, that might be like a bigger drop than that. And if Bitcoin goes even further, I wouldn't like. I think like $90 still is possible. That's what I wanted to long in the first place. When I longed down here. The only reason why I longed down here was just because I was like, okay, I really don't want to miss the entry, and because like $90 looked way better to me than 100. But yeah, I got in there, it went up, so lucky there. But I could still see 90 being tested, but so far it just makes more sense to me to go to 200, and then once 200 is reached, I think like if it doesn't get rejected there and then go sideways, then we could see like a mini alt season where Ethereum leads the charge.
That
and
is
then
a
like
slick chart.
Yeah, that is really nice.
Yeah, if that played out, that'd be pretty beautiful, like this inverse head and shoulder kind of thing. Like on a really big time frame. But yeah, we'll see. Like I think like 200 is a good target. And if it breaks down, 115 followed by if 115 fails, I think $90 comes next.
Okay, how about we look up ZIL? I don't even know how to pronounce the name. ZIL. Yeah, we've had some recommendations for that here, some requests.
Oh, I've actually talked about this on stream apparently. So this is like the typical kind of altcoin chart, right? Where you have that's something that I've been talking about recently a lot, is the August lows, where you have the lows that were set in August. Most of them got undercut and then retested as support. And that's pretty much exactly what happened on this one, where you have a low, then a lower low, and now you have a retest of the August lows. And that, for most altcoins, that led to a rally up. This one did the same thing, but it's not looking too strong in comparison to other stuff. But yeah, it's not looking too bad. I feel like with most of these altcoins, if you really wanted to take a trade, it's very much this kind of setup where you're like, okay, if it makes new lows, I don't want to be in this. And then you can always play it as a trading range, being like, okay, my stop loss is down here, that's fine. Resistance is up here, and then I'm gonna take profit up there. Or be like, if you're greedy and you think like this is the market reversal, you could just keep it and then target highs around this area. But I feel like the smart play right now for all the altcoins is just playing the trading range, because you pretty much have the same structure on every single altcoin, where you have like a low set, and then like this inverse head and shoulder thing is pretty much on every single altcoin. And I just like taking profit at the resistance because we're still in a bear market.
Yeah, I don't mind this chart at all. This is the first time I even looked at ZIL chart in probably months, so it's actually an attractive chart for the most part.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I've seen it shield a lot of people on Twitter saying stuff like that.
Yeah, it's not looking too bad. I think there's better ones, but not looking too bad. I mean, for like how this has played out, you can kind of look at ADA. It's pretty much the same thing, just completed, right? It's this exact same chart. Just like the buyback from the lows in here, which in this case are September lows, but like the same thing, has been stronger than the one on ZIL, right? You can kind of see how like the momentum was way bigger. That's why I liked ADA so much. But yeah, pretty much the same chart on all the altcoins. So I'm gonna repeat myself a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is eerily similar. Yeah.
All right, next one. Let's check out Nano BTC.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. So this is one that I've actually looked at quite, like, that's one that I'm following closely, just because of the weekly structure where you have very clear support resistance. It's very much a trading range too, but it looks stronger for the reason that the August lows led to such a huge rally and they never got undercut, which is to me, like that just shows that people are buying it.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's buy pressure because every other altcoin or like most other altcoins just undercut it and then slowly crawled back up. But yeah, I don't like how it's sitting at this, like at the bottom of the trading range this entire time, because the more times you test support, and we've seen that on Bitcoin at 6K, and we might see it at 4K. Like the more times you test the support or resistance, the weaker it gets. So you would want this to move up, and then you could target here and then maybe even higher. But if this breaks, I would definitely not want to be in it. As long as it holds, looks fine.
I think, like you said, a lot of the alt charts look the same, and maybe this is one for people to eye if they're looking to roll profits into something that hasn't really done anything yet, because I think eventually they're all going to follow the same path. It's just a matter of like when and like where in the pecking order they fall.
Yeah, as long as the market stays bullish, right?
Yeah,
if we
exactly.
get like a big wipeout on Bitcoin, for example, I could see like stuff just breaking down outright.
Yeah.
But then even if that happened, and you took profit from like one that rallied really hard into like one that hasn't rallied, I think you're gonna do better in the one that hasn't rallied than the one that has rallied, because the one that has rallied is gonna retrace more. So profit taking is definitely like key. I still think we're not that bullish yet that we don't take profit.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, next on the list that if you could take a look at really quick, this is a former darling of the 2017 run, Strat, S-T-R-A-T,
good
or
one.
Stratus.
Let's look at it. Oh, I talked about this one on stream before.
Danger zone.
So yeah, that's pretty much the same. It's pretty much the same chart again. And why I have like danger zone written here and like stupidly like childish whatever is it's the same thing. You have like this low and then undercut it, and you really want this higher low to hold, because this isn't really like it's pretty much market structure, right? If you have a low and then a low, like that's bearish market structure, and the moment it gets interesting is where you make the higher low. And this is pretty much in here. This has to be the higher low, otherwise it's just gonna like just completely fall off. And that's why like in the danger zone I'd be careful. If it got back in there, I'd be like, okay, maybe it's time to exit. But as long as it's above there, I feel like it's a good one too, because you already have like strong buying coming in like in this candle. So you know there's demand there, and pretty much looks like the same as pretty much every other altcoin is. Again, like just inverse head and shoulders.
All right, last coin, XRP.
XRP. Okay, we can talk about XRP.
Last coin.
Everyone's favorite.
Yeah.
Die. This just looks shitty to me.
Yeah, I don't like that.
So I'm like,
good.
Yeah, it's just retracing. Like it's just slow bleeding, and these slow bleeds usually end up in just big dumps, right? Whenever you have these kind of slow bleeds, what I like to do with these ones is just like draw out where they're going, and then you usually have something like this where they just accelerate, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And even if this bounces, like I don't really have a setup for taking along, so I'm like not interested. But I don't have a setup to short either, because it's in the middle of the move already. But what I've been looking at for XRP, and we're going to talk about the USD pair too, it's kind of like this area. So that's like a far way down still. Yeah. That's where I would consider like starting to buy again, which is like 20% down. Not because I necessarily think it's going to go there, but that would be like the first setup, like the risk reward setup that I could get that would be decent. And the XRP USD chart, that one's the one that looks interesting, because it's pretty much, look at this, like the 17 breakout that we had.
Yeah.
That was like the bull market, like XRP kind of took off first, or like among the first ones with Litecoin. And I was a buyer in here. and I tried to buy it in here. But it's pretty much, it looks like Bitcoin, right? It looks like Bitcoin before it broke 6K.
Very much.
Where you have a support that's been tested so many times, and like it's such an important support too. And if that falls, that's like really, really bad news. So yeah, I mean, if it breaks out and it's crypto, right? These kind of descending triangles definitely can break out.
Yeah.
We've seen it before. Wouldn't be surprised if it did, but I wouldn't necessarily want to be long this over other coins. So like XRP is just a no-go zone for me.
Yeah, not that attractive looking.
Yeah.
Real quick, DonAlt, this is like a question I think people would want to see is the boxes you draw on charts. How do you derive those? What candles do you anchor them to? Kind of give a little bit of the rationale behind those transparent boxes.
So in general, like there's not that much that you can look at in a chart other than the open, the high, the low, and the close of the candle, right? So the open is always like for red candles at the top, the close at the bottom, reverse for the bullish candles, right? And the important points on the chart are pretty much for me like swing points, right? And I think that's something that has been gaining popularity pretty much everywhere. We just look at these swing points. You're like, okay, this is the swing high. This is the swing high. I not only look at the swing highs, but I also look at the swing high candle and swing high, like swing high and swing low candles, which is, for example, this. You could just draw out a swing low here with just a simple line, but you could also just look at the body of the candle, which is just for me like the swing low body of a candle, and that's pretty much where I have my boxes. This is, for example, the swing high, the highest closing candle, and then you can just be like, okay, this is the support area, and you can kind of see how it, like you had buying in here. Price didn't go further down, and it's pretty much the same thing in here where you have this turned resistance, and you're gonna, like, if it goes back up, this is gonna turn into resistance again. And there's more to it, but like I don't want to talk about it too long. But yeah, if you look at candles, not only at the wicks, because the wicks can just be illiquidity, like illiquid markets, right? Especially in crypto, you just have I mean, if you just buy 10, 15 Bitcoin of any altcoin, you're going to get like a stupid wick up. You can do TA with that wick, but I like to look at where's the most trading happening, and that's definitely in the body of the candle. And that's pretty much what I look at most.
Nice. So if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify or whatever, make sure you head over to our YouTube channel. And that's where DonAlt shared his screens, and you'll be able to see everything that he's talking about. So, Don, that pretty much wraps up everything that we have on our paper. Is there any closing, final, parting words you'd like to say before we sign off here?
No, I think I'm good. Thank you for having me, guys.
No, thank you, man.
Thanks for joining on. It's good to get your perspective on some coins like this, kind of when things are popping off. So make sure you follow him on Twitter. Head on over to his page. It's at CryptoDonAlt. So smash that follow button with him. Thanks for listening. As always, tip your waitress. Hootskis with the boys. Keep grinding away. Take care, everyone. Peace out, man.
Bye-bye.